Hello, fellow supermoms. Nadine here. And gosh, has it been a while? Again! Every time I have this, idea, I'm going to report or record every week, and then, special needs kids, or, your own chronic illness, life happens. So, I'm sorry it took so long, but I'm back again. This episode is about eating the elephant one bite at a time. And why this episode? Well, recently we discovered something about Supergirl, and I was like, how could I have missed this? But then I realized, and this phrase, eating the elephant one bite at a time, is something my husband already said early on in the process of us having a special needs kids, or when we're in the process of discovering what was going on, and I have to admit I'm kind of a worry rat, so I easily start thinking about the future and what if, and those questions that there's no answer, but and I remember the first time, day before Christmas break, the kindergarten teacher of Wonder Boy came up to me saying, "Oh, by the way, can I have a moment?" "Yeah, sure." Friday before the Christmas break, and out of nowhere said, "Yeah, we think he has autism, or what was it called? Nowadays, it's just ASS, autism spectrum disorder, ASD." And back then you had, Asperger's and classic autism, and then you had, well, in the Netherlands it was called PDD NOS or something. Basically, we don't know, but we're labeling it anyway. And well, we think this is going on, and have a great Christmas break. Bye. And it was the first and the last time I googled something about what does this mean. Oh, it scared the crap out of me. And yeah, that's another thing. I wanted to capture in this podcast about eating the elephant one bite at a time. Because, in the beginning of the process, and I see that with my work for the Juvenile Arthritis Association as well, that, your kid gets a diagnosis. And it's totally understandable that you just want to know what's the prognosis, what can they do or can't they do in the future, will this affect blah, 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 blah. And we see that with juvenile arthritis, but also autism and ADHD, dyslexia. And it sucks. But you don't know. You won't know what the outcome will be. And as a parent, you just want your kid to be happy, and you're anxious about, because what does that mean? And in the beginning, we had no idea. When she was 5 years old, Supergirl, and she got the diagnosis of uveitis, an autoimmune on her eyes, and it was really bad. By the time they noticed it, there was already damage, and her vision was clouded. And thank God, because of a lot of meds and a really aggressive treatment, they were able to undamage quite a lot, but there's still, scar tissue. But we were already warned. There might be, if this is not going to help, this med is not going to help, surgery is going to. Surgery needs to happen. But also the problem with this disease is it will keep coming back, and you can't. It's like her eyes get clouded like the screen of your car, and you can demystify it. But when it's cold, warm outside, your window will still fog up. So you can't And that's kind of the same with her eyes. And they said, if we can't get it under control, you also can't keep on having surgery. So that scared the bejesus out of us. And I remember my husband already saying back then, we can't worry about that now because we don't know. Let's first see if this helps. And it, turned out not to be. Okay, next medication, even more aggressive. And it's so hard because, when she had that diagnosis, and I think that even scared me more, the possibility of getting blind than juvenile arthritis, because I had no idea what it meant and what it would mean for her future. And on one hand, it's so understandable that you want to know everything, what should I, prepare myself for? What can I expect so I can battle myself up? But honestly, when Supergirl got her diagnosis at age of 5, I don't think I could have handled the fact that one day she would need a wheelchair. And that she would have periods when she was switching meds that her juvenile arthritis was so bad that she would just cry because it was so painful. And it's a good thing I didn't know that was going to happen when she was 13 or 14, or since 5th grade. Supergirl hasn't been able to attend school full time. That would have been information I could not have handled when she was 5 years old, and I was a really new special needs parent when I was new to the game, because I just had no idea. And you learn and you evolve. And there's also, we see that we just in the Netherlands finished a big project with young adults and adolescents talking to each other, where the younger kids could ask questions about the future to the more experienced kids about, will this affect my chances to do this? Can I become, a flight attendant, or can I become, will I be able to play soccer or do ballet or anything? So all kinds of questions. We had questions coming in from really young kids and a little bit older kids, because when you're 8 or 13 or 17, your worries and questions are different. And it was really interesting to know, because you could also see with that group of, young adults and the teenagers, that there's a big difference. They all have juvenile arthritis, but not one kid is the same. So you can't predict the future. There's I know several girls that one is participating in Paralympics, but on a really high level. That you're already wondering, why even Paralympics? She's that good, but you also have a kid. Can you also see the problem immediately there? Because, well, it doesn't look visible. So that's a whole new episode. And a frustration I think I already talked about. But you also have kids that are able to have a full-time job. And there are the ones that have it at such a level that they need government support. I can't come up with the right word. There's so much difference. And the same goes for, if you have dyslexia, or if with autism and ADHD, Wonder Boy, as a group of friends. And everybody is, there's either autism or ADHD or both or some other form of mental challenge. They're all different. They're all different. So, and they're also, their own personalities. And that can play a role too in how a kid evolves. How you handle things as a parent, has an effect. But yeah, I remember reading the first time that I googled that autism specific diagnose, and I was crying because when I read that page, it was like, okay, he's doomed. He won't be able to do anything, and blah 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 blah. And nowadays, of course, first that teacher was out of line, and she got reprimanded because at home we didn't have any problems with Wonder Boy, but we had systems in place that we didn't even realize, but they just worked for us. So they worked for our son that looked so much like his parents. But thank God, science evolves. We evolve. So there is more and more expertise, and we see with juvenile arthritis the medication change compared to 30 years ago. The difference is huge. You can see the physical disabilities kids have, now adults that are 30 and up, where the methotrexate, that was kind of the first, I would almost say hallelujah medication, not a cure because there's no cure yet, unfortunately, but it made a significant difference in controlling the inflammation and thus the effect on bone structure and everything. And you can see already a big difference, all the adults that are 30 years and up that didn't have that available yet. And nowadays you have biologicals and everything, and it's still, I won't deny it, it's still hard, but the difference compared to 30 years ago is huge. So that's why it's also important to, you can't, and I think you shouldn't, especially in the soup that's the internet with all those opinions and all those opinions, really, and people pretending to be experts. You have to be so careful with the information you find, and with AI coming in. There was already an expert saying everything 2023 and up, everything you read, we read it with a grain of salt, because is it really true? And to such an extent that we saw a juvenile arthritis association, not ours, but not an association, but a group that on the outset seems that they're, experts on juvenile arthritis, and the misinformation on that page was huge, and really damaging. If you would read that as a new parent or as a new patient, the consequences, if you would have followed up on that, would actually be damaging, and cause a lot of stress and everything. And I have the feeling I'm now going into this rabbit hole, but going back to the eating the elephant one bite at a time. You grow into your role as especially as parents. You learn the tools to to deal with stuff. You gain more knowledge. Actually, there are new insights and new meds that evolve so rapidly. What we think now and what we have to our availability now is nothing. That will change in 10 years, but maybe already next year or in 5 years. And all our kids, no matter the disease or the diagnosis, no one is alike. And it also, if you use the approach of eating the elephant one bite at a time, the same goes for, if you have a really tough day or it's really not going well physically, mentally with your kids, maybe you. It's like one step at a time. It's the same thing. You can't. It's almost like the same as training for a marathon or maybe even 10K. Is that you don't have the experience and the training in the beginning. You grow and you learn and you make mistakes, but you also, because it's a process, you learn what works for you and what you should do and you shouldn't do. About 4 years ago, I had a serious special needs supermom burnout, and at the moment it's not going that great with Supergirl like 4 or 5 years ago, but I am not in the same position I really learned from that burnout that I had 4 or 5 years ago, and seeing a therapist helping me dealing with this it helps me deal with this situation that we are have at the moment in a better way. But because of that, it also makes me a better parent, because I'm no use to my kids if I worry them with my worries, or if my distress and my despair. And I don't say that you can't cry in front of your kids. I had quite a meltdown a couple of weeks ago because we were waiting for specialized mental care, and there was an urgent need, and an organization they lied, they twisted, and now we're 3 months further down the road. So I was so upset and crying, and Supergirl saw that, and that's totally fine. They can. It's good for them to see that we can be frustrated with the system as well, like they are. But it's something else that you are down and depressed because you worry about their future all the time. They're not stupid. They will notice, and because you stress and worry all the time and doom and gloom, that will affect your kids as well. Easier said than done. But I've already been in this game now for 19 years. So, and I'm still growing and I'm still learning. And even when it comes to taking decisions, when it comes to special needs schools or a certain type of special needs care, really heavy medications, because we're dealing with really, really serious heavy medications. What you decide now, is not set in stone. You can change, and maybe other medications come up. Maybe something will get better. But what you decide now is not set in stone, so you can always change and take that next hurdle when it actually does show up. And I'm really good in, like I already said, worrying about, what if? But does it do me any good? Not at all. It doesn't help the situation. It doesn't help me coming up with a better solution. Most of the time, what I think about in, to precise detail, it's never exactly like that. And even if it is, me worrying about a possible thing tomorrow or in a month or next year, has no benefits, and it also doesn't help you make better decisions. You should make decisions based on a current situation. What's the help question at the moment for your kid? What's the need at the moment? And of course, yes, you have to think about long-term goals. I mean, the medications Supergirl takes are also, of course, long-term. But I'm not making decisions about maybe a possible medication or therapy that maybe would benefit her in 10 years' time, because there's no use. But where does she need help with at the moment? What can we do? What's available? And a lot of kids and teens and adults that deal with a chronic illness, or ADHD or autism, at a certain moment are going to deal with depression. That's something I didn't know when they were 5 years old. Thank God, because as a parent with young kids, what good would it have done for me to know, well, in the future they might deal with depression? And also, it can also be, something that happens because they age. So you suddenly, when you become a teenager and you start thinking about college or work, it's quite logical. It totally makes sense that at a certain moment you will deal with a depression, with a chronic illness. And with ADHD and autism, often anxiety comes around the corner. And they have a bigger chance to develop a depression at a certain moment, for various reasons. But when it's not treated, the chance is like 80% in adults and kids. So that's huge. But no kid is alike. So that there is a chance, a higher risk on having a depression, doesn't mean your kid will have it, or that your kid will have it at the same level as mine. And depression is such a big word, and I saw, even when I talked to Supergirl and Wonderboy, when they talked about their friends and what they were dealing with, and I saw it in their friend group. Not one depression is the same, and you have really scary dark depressions, and you just have the depressions that happen because you are so frightened as a kid, or put down because you have to give up your dream. Supergirl always wanted to join the army like her dad. She can't. So it's totally normal that you grieve about that. And if you see that more and more possibilities are taken away from you because of your disease, it's totally understandable that you need to process that. And that sometimes you need depression. Or not need depression, but that depression, hits. Totally makes sense. But it would have done me no good, knowing what my kids would worry about when they were going to be, in their teens or young adults, or the same with the disease. Knowing at the age of 5, or when she was 5, knowing how hard it would be, or that she would at a certain moment need a wheelchair, have an electric bike, and nowadays everybody has an electric bike, but when she started it was still quite new, just to be able to ride a bike. And in the Netherlands, everybody rides a bike, so you stand out if you don't ride a bike. We don't have school buses. Everybody, maybe in the remote areas, and some kids that go to special needs schools sometimes get picked up by. But for the rest, you cycle to school. You cycle to your elementary school. You cycle to high school, because everything is in cycle distance. And by the way, that includes, if your school is 6 miles away, you cycle. I know kids from Supergirl's class that would cycle, what was it? 50 miles one way on their bike, because they lived a little bit remote on a farm. There's no bus. You will cycle. So eat the elephant one bite at a time. Don't blame yourself for not noticing something that you're already a special needs parent like me for years and years, and suddenly you're like, wait, this might be going on as well. How the heck could I have missed that? Well, because there was a lot of other shit going on that needed more attention, so that other problem would kind of go to the background. Totally makes sense. Eat the elephant one bite at a time, because it has no use to worry about the future, because we don't know the future. Every kid evolves differently with their disease. Insights change, expertise change, medication changes. We change. No kid with, for my case, with juvenile arthritis, autism or ADHD, no kid evolves at the same time, has the same kind of outcome in life, is going to do the same profession, is going to have the same energy levels. And of course not, because we're all different people as well. Eat the elephant one bite at a time, because you can't make one decision that's going to stick for the rest of their entire life. You're totally, you're going to have, as a special needs parent, there are going to be a lot of tough decisions ahead of you. And it will change. Sometimes you need to switch medications. Sometimes you have to decide that you have to change schools. Sometimes you have to decide that specialized mental health care is needed to help your kid. But you can't worry about that until the moment actually presents itself, because our kids are all different. So that one kid will develop a depression doesn't mean the other kid will develop a depression, having a chronic illness. It really depends. And, as a fellow special needs mom and a fellow worry rat, perhaps, I think that's helped me so much that I went to therapy about 4 or 5 years ago when I had my special needs Supermom burnout. And thankfully, my husband is the opposite of me. So really pragmatic, really analytical. So he's really right when he said early on, so that would have been about, with Supergirl, that would have been about 12, 13 years ago. Honey, we're going to eat the elephant one bite at a time. And the same with our Wonder Boy. And he would repeat that every time, when we face challenges in elementary school, when we face challenges high school, when we face challenges college, and now with possible follow-up on that. There really is no use in worrying about the future. And what you decide today, you can change tomorrow. So eat the elephant one bite at a time. And I hope you have a lovely day. Bye.